On today's show, after a rough weekend against the Blue Jackets, the Capitals get back into the win column, and Dylan Strome scores his first hat trick as a Capital.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, I want to thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals as they pick up a big win over the Islanders. And some people might be thinking to yourself, a big win over the Islanders. You know how bad the Islanders are this season. Listen, it was a great win by this team to just bounce back after a truly tough weekend against the Blue Jackets. And, you take a look at the Islanders, and they don't have a whole lot to play for, but sometimes the Capitals have struggled playing down to teams. How did the defense step up and really help this team button it up? I'll talk about that a bit later. We'll talk about Dylan Strome as he scores his first hat trick as a Capital. He has been truly lighting it up for the Capitals this season, playing primarily on that first line with Alex Ovechkin, a replacement, if you will, for Nick Backstrom. How is he getting it done, and what has he meant for the Capitals this season? But just to get it going here, talking about the Capitals as they get back into the win column. And it's funny that just picking up one win in a lot of ways kind of makes you forget about all that has happened here within the last stretch of games, or more specifically, this last weekend's games against the Blue Jackets. But it was a good win by this team. But all things considered, there was that bounced puck off the iron that this could have gone another direction. But I'm not going to deal with the woulda, coulda, shoulda. What I know for sure, is the Capitals pick up a big win and a good momentum boost. And, you take a look at it, they were able to do it without two big defenders in the mix, Carlson and Chychrun. And, that was some of the knock against the Capitals over the weekend, was that they said, well, the Capitals didn't win because they didn't have some key players in there. I'm here to tell you the Capitals found a way to win this game, minus 2 big defenders, but not really an apples for apples comparison. As we know, the Blue Jackets are a much better team than the Islanders. But like I said, what I'm going to concentrate on in this show is the big win and how the Capitals got it done. And how are you guys feeling out there? Does one win kind of make you forget about what has happened here as of late for this team, or are we still going to kind of try to stew around in the negativity? For me, you got to live in the here and now, and what the Capitals did tonight was a good thing by getting into the win column. So let's dive into that, talking about your favorite team and mine, the Capitals. And the last time the Capitals played at UBS Arena, of course, we know Alex Ovechkin achieved greatness. He found a way to break the record. He found a way to beat Gretzky's record. And I think that forever, I will always think that when the Capitals play the Islanders at UBS Arena, that is probably the first thing that is going to come to mind. That is one of the things that John Walton and Craig Laughlin tonight we're talking about. And just on a side note, I think that John Walton and Craig Laughlin have a tremendous chemistry that if for some reason Beninati wasn't able to go, I just like the way those two guys play off each other. And one of the good things about the Capitals broadcasters is Zach Fish stepping up from the Hershey Bears. Just a real delight, if you will, to listen to the game tonight. But if you take a look at it, the Capitals delivered big time. A 3-1 victory. And Tom Wilson, good old number 43, helping out his boy Dylan Strome get that hat trick. And, if there's a guy that's deserving of it, it is Strome, who puts in a tremendous amount of work. And I'll talk about him a little bit more in depth later. But talking about, despite not having the full roster, Strome really stepped up, and we saw a strong rebound from goaltender Charlie Lindgren, who answered some critics after a few inconsistent outings. And I think we better get used to the fact that it is going to be Charlie Lindgren in net for at least game one of the playoffs. That you take a look at Logan Thompson, his trajectory is putting him so that he will be able to join the team here somewhat soon, but we don't know for sure because it's kind of a slow build when it comes to Logan Thompson, that you can't be full go and partake in full practices until the doctors sign off on for you. But the fact that he's getting in work is promising. But the good thing, and like I talked about with Charlie Lindgren, and how I thought that Charlie Lindgren maybe knew in the back of his mind that he was going to have to play Superman yet again and put on the cape and save the day. That is what he's going to have to do, at least to start the playoffs. Whoever the opponent is, I guess it's a bit up in the air. For the longest time, it seemed like it was the Canadians, but the Blue Jackets are making it interesting. In any event, Charlie Lindgren was huge for the Caps. Now, prior to this matchup, the Caps had been struggling offensively. If we remember that more specifically, this last weekend's games, but only managing one goal in their last two games, while ranking last in goals for percentage at 5-on-5 over the previous 11 contests. So, when I talk about the faith in the Capitals being restored, if we take a look at who the Capitals have played and how they have fared as of late, it has been a bit rough, a rough go of it here. As we take a look at this team, they won 3-1 tonight, but the game before 4-1 to the Jackets, 7-0. They lost to the Blue Jackets in the other game. They lost in the other outing against the Islanders. That, there's been some hiccups and there's been some inconsistent winning as far as the Capitals are concerned. That, just like I say, to get back into the win column, I think helps to make me forget or, kind of push away the negativity, because this team, we can't forget about what they've accomplished. The first team to clinch a playoff spot, the team that won the Eastern Conference, the team that won the Metro Division, that there is a lot to like. And, I know it was, like I said, just to win against a truly not great team in the Islanders, but still a big moral boost for this team as they have the Penguins on deck on Thursday. But in the game tonight, Dylan Strome was the guy, and Charlie Lindgren for sure was the guy that kept the Capitals in this, because despite, how poor the Islanders are, they made it interesting. Like I said, that one that rang off the iron, and a couple other opportunities that, had it not been for Charlie Lindgren really dialed in, this could have gone in another direction, or at least to overtime. But taking a look at it, a guy that has really stepped up, and the only move the Capitals made on the trade deadline was acquiring Anthony Beauvillier. And what a huge impact he has made. And I remember, right when that move happened, that some people were saying, a depth move. He might just be a healthy scratch just to sit on up in the fancy seats with his fancy clothes on. But he has been a key contributor, and just not forgetting what kind of player he is. He played for a while with Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. So he is used to playing with some truly marquee talent, and really played well alongside Strome. Anthony Beauvillier made a notable impact on the top line, feeding off the energy from Strome and Ovechkin. The big thing about him is that as far as stature is concerned, he's not the biggest guy, but his speed, physicality, and positional awareness helped extend Ovechkin's point streak to 8 games. So quite an evening for Anthony Beauvillier as he continues to do some truly great things for this team. And, like I said, I don't think there was real high hopes for him per se when he joined this team, but has killed it. As far as the stat sheet is concerned, Dylan Strome led the team with shots on goal, but right in that mix, Anthony Beauvillier, 5 shots on goal, Connor McMichael, 5 shots on goal. So truly a great outing for the Capitals, whether it be Anthony Beauvillier, Dylan Strome, or Connor McMichael. The offense really showed up to play, and ultimately what put the Capitals in this position. So a lot to be excited about. Walking away from this game is, it was kind of down in the dumps over the weekend, to be honest with you. Taking a look at how this team played, because there was a lot of hopes that this team would do great things, to finish off the season. But I think to a certain extent, you got to kind of look at the more broad body of work than just concentrate on this short, inconsistent winning patch, shall we say. So all things considered, the Capitals had a truly great outing. Dylan Strome, who I'll talk about a bit later here, had an outstanding evening. And Charlie Lindgren, the guy, reprising his role yet again as Superman, as the Capitals inch closer and closer to the playoffs. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Dylan Strome as he scores his first hat trick as a Capital. Listen, when former GM Brian McClellan acquired Dylan Strome so many years ago from the Chicago Blackhawks, a guy that was kind of put on the scrap heap by the Blackhawks, I don't think that we knew he was going to be as big of a piece as he has been. He has been, in a lot of ways, the replacement for Nick Backstrom. What does he mean for this team, and how does he continue to keep getting it done? I'll discuss straight ahead. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Now, when I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, well, I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. You can find me over on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So Dylan Strome has been huge for this team all season long. And it's not just Dylan Strome, but in a lot of ways, it's all about Dylan Strome as he puts up big points, has been putting up big goals, and tonight scored his first hat trick as a Capital. So quite an exciting evening for Dylan Strome as he continues to do yeoman work for this team. Like I say, tonight, 3 goals, 3 points, 6 shots on goal. Quite a dynamic evening for Dylan Strome. So let's talk about him next here. Strome opened the scoring early on, a power play. Watching that game, that is what set the positivity in motion. He launched that long-distance point shot that was deflected by a defender past Islanders goalie Ilya Sorokin. So, when you take a look at it, Strome, pumping your fist, there was the thought there that did Tom Wilson deflected what the case was? It wasn't entirely sure. I was watching the game on Monumental, and they had a couple different replays of it. And you could see that the puck did have some movement towards it, but it was hard to tell who got in on the action. At first, I thought it was going to be Tom Wilson, at least getting one of those goals that appeared to be deflected by Wilson. But then in the second period, he struck again thanks to a slick backhand pass from Ovechkin after a relentless forecheck. And, the good thing about Ovi right now is he is helping build up his teammates around him. He is helped paying back the guys that got him in the position that he's in right now. There was a lot of opportunities and a lot of goals that Alex Ovechkin scored this year due to some great passes from Dylan Strome. So for Ovi to pay that back to help facilitate in what would be a hat trick really speaks volumes about Ovi, and just a really great pass, all things considered. Quite a goal and quite a pass from Ovechkin. But Strome didn't just score; he recorded his 28th goal of the season, setting a career high, hitting the 80-point mark for the first time in his career. But when it ended, it was 27, 28, and 29. Pretty impressive, if you ask me. That hat trick, his first with the Capitals and third overall, came with an empty net goal assisted by good old number 43, Tom Wilson. And, if it was just the hat trick, that would be enough. Of course, it is the special icing on the cake as a guy that puts in the work. We know about Dylan Strome he is a guy that is totally locked in as far as analytics and data is concerned. He hangs out on Hockey DB all the time. For just a guy that loves the game, loves everything about it, not being just a player, but the inner workings of it, the statistics, those kind of things, that it was truly a good reward for a guy that has put in the work. And, the one thing I'm going to go ahead and say about Dylan Strome, not that it matters, is it just seems that, I saw him on the Spitting Chicklets podcast, and I've seen him on different podcasts, is that he seems like a genuinely nice person. It's not just smiles when the camera's on and a miserable person when the camera goes off. He seems like a truly centered, great person, and has been nothing but a big addition for the Capitals this season. And like I talked about, there was a lot of uncertainty on this team when Nick Backstrom had that hip resurfacing procedure done. He was the guy to assist Alex Ovechkin on all those goals. When we found out that he needed that hip resurfacing procedure and then he came back and it didn't respond the way he had hoped, that there was a lot of questions like, who's going to be the guy now feeding Ovechkin the puck? So Dylan Strome has been such a key piece for this team. And if in this segment, this is who I'm talking about almost exclusively, Strome. I know there's a lot of other players on the team that have seen their career numbers just really take it to the next level. But as far as Dylan Strome is concerned, quite an evening for him, and a guy that has a really good hockey IQ, sees the ice very well, a great passer, and like I say, key for Alex Ovechkin doing the unthinkable thing this season in catching Wayne Gretzky. And you take a look at it. It was one of those players that, like I said, former GM Brian McClellan acquired, and it was a name I was familiar with, but it wasn't necessarily like Dylan Strome. Yeah, that guy. He is going to be the guy that is going to change this team, take it to the next level. But he has been that and then some. So as the Capitals, as we edge closer and closer to the first game of the playoffs, I have a certain amount of peace of mind knowing that Dylan Strome is on this team and is putting this team in a good position. Like I said, it's not just him, but Dylan Strome in particular is one of the big pieces, one of the secret ingredients in the secret sauce of this year's Capitals team that has made them so effective. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about the defense really stepped up. Now, listen, I know that the Capitals were playing the Islanders tonight, and the Islanders have been out of it for quite some time, but that Islanders team under the tutelage of Patrick Waugh definitely still had some pushback. That is a team that is wanting to play spoiler. That is a team that is playing for pride for the jersey that they're wearing, their fan base, and a lot of players that are playing for future jobs. If it wasn't for the Capitals defense stepping up, this game could have spun in another direction. How did the Caps defense step up and get it done? I'll discuss straight ahead. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Now, I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Now, plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Now, you take a look at it, the Wizards, they aren't the team that we had hoped for. But say you're watching a game with the NBA playoffs coming here and you want interest in the game, even though it's not your hometown team. Open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, it got that much more exciting. So don't miss out on all the action. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So talking the Capitals defense, talking net minding, and, oftentimes the sexy storyline to talk about is goal scoring. That Dylan Strome scored a hat trick and woo, it brings them to their feet. So exciting that I think that sometimes a stout, steady defense doesn't necessarily garner that same response. But make no mistake about it. If your team has subpar defenders, your team will pay. Now, the truly great thing about the game tonight, and you can tell by the score that the defense was dialed in, was that they found a way to get it done without two of their key defenders. I'm talking Carlson, I'm talking Chychrun, and it makes you wonder that, hey, this could have been a shutout, or the score could have been higher, because we know that Carlson, and more specifically, Jakob Chychrun, has an offensive flair. So a tip of the hat goes to Alexeyev and Big Mac, Dylan McIlrath, for being those big-time defenders. And, a good position that the Capitals are in, because there are a lot of scenarios as we get closer to the playoffs, injuries that you don't know are behind the door number two. I think back to not so many years ago, like I said, when Tom Wilson got injured and how that changed the trajectory of the Capitals in the playoffs. So the good thing for the Capitals is the core blue liners that they do have are really great. But Alexeyev and Dylan McIlrath, you take a look at what Dylan McIlrath did last season in the playoffs, can really step up and play a huge role on this team. So let's dive into that in the final segment. Like I said, Carlson, Chychrun taking a maintenance day, and in particular, John Carlson. If there is a guy that is worthy of a maintenance day, I'm going to say it's John Carlson, the minute monster. The last couple seasons, playing 25, 30 minutes a night. Maybe not quite as much this season, but still plays a lot of minutes, suffice to say. And like I say, McIlrath, Alexeyev, huge. The defense did a fantastic job in front of Lindgren. We've seen that before, where I'm thinking to the game where Hunter Shepard was in net and everyone was down in the dumps on Hunter Shepard. The defense didn't show up. The defense showed up tonight, and that was a huge ingredient in not only Charlie Lindgren's success, but the team finishing the game in the win column. We had become a bit of a question mark talking about Lindgren, but I think that when the defense is stout around him, that Charlie Lindgren is that much better of a netminder. Because let's be honest, you take the greatest netminder in the world and you have really poor defense in front of him, the netminder's not going to have any real success. He might stop more than a poor goalie, but you still need that great defense. So who stepped up? I talked about minute monsters. I talk about John Carlson routinely playing big minutes. Matt Roy, the big quiet guy, clocked in over 25 minutes of ice time, leading the team and contributing to 4 blocked shots. Again, when the Capitals went out and acquired Matt Roy, signed him to that 6-year deal from the Kings there, that he wasn't necessarily one of the big sexy names around the NHL. That, if you follow the NHL in general, Matt Roy, but chances are he wasn't one of the guys that was up there on your list as top defenders. Matt Roy has definitely been a key player for this team all season long and tonight, a guy that can step up and play big minutes in the absence of a Carlson, a Chychrun. 25 minutes, 4 block shots. Kudos. Fist pump goes out to Matt Roy. And as a group, they totaled 16 block shots against the Islanders. And, you take a look at it. I don't want to hear any talk about, well, it was against the Islanders or what. Listen, we're hard on them when they lose to these poor teams. We really need to pump them up when they pick up wins against poor teams as well. Because let's be honest here, Capitals fans, had they lost tonight, we would be very hard on them. I would be very hard on them. So I want to do my due diligence to really give them their attaboy and high fives for a job well done. Now, shout out to Rasmus Sandin, too, who coordinated the power play well, notched a secondary assist on Strome's power play goal while maintaining solid defensive play. And the one thing that I've noticed is that Rasmus Sandin has thrived in Washington. I know that's not too much of a breaking news hot take, but I think that he was a bit of a mismatch playing up in Toronto. That I think that, with working with Spencer Carberry and his assistants, Mitch Love, those kind of things, that he knows what his role is with the Capitals, that he saw himself as a bit of a different player years ago, but Rasmus Sandin has thrived playing for the Capitals. There has been, some gaffes here and there, but that's true with any player. But all things considered, Rasmus Sandin has been one heck of an addition here. So talking about Lindgren, giving him his flowers here as well. We know that Shep Daddy, the Capitals had seen enough, and Clay Stevenson got the call up here that Clay Stevenson very well could play in the final game of the regular season against the Pens. But what has been said is that it is Charlie Lindgren's net, if he wants it. But you got to think that if there's a good possibility to get Clay Stevenson some work in this final game of the regular season, they can do that. Logan Thompson injured, inching his way back to return. Hunter Shepard down to Hershey. So who are the big guys in net for the Capitals right now? Charlie Lindgren, of course, and Clay Stevenson, at least for the rate here right now. Lindgren, like I said, was sharp in this game, saving 34 of 35 with an impressive .971 save percentage. And in particular, this was his first outing since March 22nd, where a Capitals goalie cracked over a .900 save percentage. So all things considered, the Capitals, played a really great game. Outstanding players goes out to Charlie Lindgren, goes to out to Dylan Strome and Matt Roy, these kind of players that were the difference makers. Alex Ovechkin, so there are the key contributors. Then there's kind of the secondary. So all things considered, the outstanding performers, like I said, Strome, Lindgren, these kind of guys that just really help take the Capitals to the next level. Because let's be clear here, Capitals fans, had they lost that game tonight after dropping 2 against the Columbus Blue Jackets, we would be like, what is going on with this team? I don't need to worry about that. The Capitals found a way to pick up, all things considered, a really great win for this team. Let's hope they can really stick a dagger to their biggest rival, the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, I'm hoping for Clay Stevenson to be in the mix. Why not? Let's get him a look out there. The one thing I noticed tonight is it almost had a feeling of a preseason game that, you could tell the Islanders weren't fully bought into everything, and the attendance at the game at UBS was less than stellar, shall we say. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On NHL, as they have you covered 5 days a week, covering all of the NHL, available wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.